Discover the incredible journey, how America's heartwarming pursuit exposed the life-changing fate of a small town. In the quaint town of Maplewood, where the aroma of freshly baked apple pie mingles with the laughter of children playing hopscotch, Clara's life felt like a photograph captured in sepia tones. As a single mother and waitress at the diner on Main Street, she pushed through each evening serving coffee and grilled cheese, her lifeline to a modest paycheck. After her long shifts, the chaos of her small, cozy apartment burst through the door with her two kids, Lucy and Ethan, throwing themselves into her arms, their giggles echoing like sweet music. Those moments filled her heart with warmth, igniting her dreams for a future where her children could thrive beyond the boundaries of their economically struggling town. But just as Clara's world spun with the joyful chaos of family, shadows darkened the doorstep of Maplewood. News broke like a thunderclap: the historic Maplewood factory was shutting down. The air thickened with uncertainty as whispers slithered through the grocery aisles and barbershops. Residents, once beneath the sunny skies of possibility, now cast heavy hearts down the sun-drenched streets, burdened by the impending closure. Clara felt it too, a tightness in her chest as loyal customers shuffled in wearing frowns instead of smiles. One evening, Clara arrived home to find Ethan staring at the wall, and Lucy had tried to bake a dismal clump of burnt dough laying abandoned. Clara wrapped her arms around them, determination burning bright within her. This was her moment. She couldn't stand by while her community suffered. At the town hall meeting, Clara found herself engulfed in a wave of emotions as tense voices clashed, the anxious workers against the pristine factory representatives. When her turn came, she rose, trembling but fierce. "We must stand together," she shouted, her heart racing. Her voice quaked with the weight of countless dreams and families at stake. But as the passionate murmurs began to fade, she wondered, could they truly rally against the cold grip of corporate indifference? Despite her fervent pleas, many townsfolk remained shackled by despair. In their faces, she saw the flicker of hope struggling to break free. Through shared meals and listening late into the night, Clara planted seeds of unity among her neighbors, one act of kindness at a time. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as hope blossomed with the idea of a proposed cooperative business, Clara found herself face to face with the factory owners in a tense meeting. Each heartbeat was like a drum, a reminder of what was at stake. The townsfolk stood alongside her, courage shining bright, but Clara felt the creeping doubt seep into her mind. Would they be strong enough to challenge the titan before them? As she took a deep breath, preparing to speak, the silence felt charged with uncertainty. Everything hung in the balance. Would Maplewood rise together or watch their dreams dissolve like morning fog? As Clara stood in front of the factory owners, the weight of 1,000 eyes bore down on her. The room was charged with anxiety, a stillness punctuated only by the shuffling of feet and the whispered prayers of her neighbors. She recalled her children's smiles and their dreams, which were woven into the very fabric of Maplewood. The determination that had ignited within her moments ago now crackled like static in the air, urging her to believe in the power of community. "Thank you for taking the time to meet with us," she began, her voice clearer than she felt. "We're not just here to express our concerns. We're here to propose a solution." The glances exchanged among the townsfolk behind her filled her with a rush of strength. She quickly looked at the factory representatives, noticing their cold expressions, but she pressed on. "We want to start a cooperative. A business owned by us, the people of Maplewood. We can produce goods that sustain our families and revive this town." The lead representative, a tall man with slicked back hair and a sharp suit, raised an eyebrow. "And why would we want to support a venture that could fail? You hardly have the resources to challenge our factory," he said, dismissively, Clara felt a wave of frustration crash into her, but beneath it, a resilient fire blazed. "Because we have something you don't," she replied, gathering her emotions. "We have heart. We care about each other. We're dedicated to making Maplewood thrive again. With your support, we can create jobs, generate income, and reclaim our community." The murmurs began anew among her neighbors. Excitement mingled with skepticism. "What if it's a bad idea?" someone whispered from her left. "What if we fail?" came another voice from the crowd. Clara turned to them, her heart pounding. "I understand your fears, but doing nothing is no longer an option. Look around, this place is our home. We have to fight for it. I can't do this alone, but together we can bring Maplewood back to life." Suddenly, a small voice pierced the tension. Lucy stepped forward, her eyes wide with innocent courage. "Mommy, we can do it. Can't we?" She clutched Ethan's hand tightly. The room shifted. Clara's heart swelled at her daughter's unyielding belief. If Lucy could believe in this dream, then why couldn't everyone else? She glanced at the focused faces of her neighbors, the baker, the mechanic, even those who had once doubted her strength. They all had an opportunity to reclaim their dreams together. "We need to take this risk," Clara urged. "Let us prove to ourselves and to the factory that we're worth investing in." There was a moment of silence, a bridge of hesitation spanning between what was possible and reality. Then, slowly, supportive nods began to ripple through the crowd, each more confident than the last. Clara's heart raced with hope. As the meeting concluded, a spark ignited among them. They left the room united, each whispering ideas and determination. But somewhere beneath the surface, doubt still lurked, threading its way into Clara's mind. What if their plans were ambitious dreams that would end in failure? Outside the town hall, under the soft glow of streetlights, Clara scanned the eager faces of her friends, yet a heavy knot twisted in her stomach. Was this truly the right path? Tomorrow would reveal the next chapter of their fight, but for now, in that moment beneath the stars, with her children clutching her hands, Clara could only cling to the warmth of hope. How could they truly make this work? Would their collective dream strengthen them in ways they never imagined? The questions lingered, fueling the spark that had kindled within Maplewood. As the townsfolk slowly dispersed, Clara felt an unfamiliar weight settle on her shoulders. There was a long, challenging road ahead, but the taste of possibility lingered like the scent of apple pie in the warm evening air. Would they be strong enough to face the factory's owners again? Would the dream of a cooperative turn into their newfound reality? As the sun dipped below the horizon, Clara closed her eyes and let the hope wash over her like a tide, wishing for a dawn that would bring the answers they all sought. Clara lay awake that night, her mind racing with possibilities. The soft, rhythmic breathing of her children next to her was a soothing balm, yet it did little to calm her worried heart. She could feel the weight of the town's dreams resting on her shoulders, and doubt threatened to creep in like the shadows around her. What if they failed? What if their determination wasn't enough to break through the years of neglect left by the factory owners? Morning light streamed through the curtains, illuminating the room and stirring her from restless thoughts. The aroma of fresh coffee wafted in from the kitchen, a comforting smell that signaled a new day. Clara inhaled deeply, embracing the sense of normalcy while remembering the challenge ahead. She showered, dressed, and headed to the kitchen, where Ethan sat drawing at the table. "Mommy, look!" he exclaimed, proudly displaying his colorful scribbles of the factory, the town hall, and his family. "That's wonderful, sweetheart." Clara beamed, her heart swelling with pride. It was moments like this that reminded her of what they were fighting for. Once breakfast was done, Clara gathered a few essentials papers, a notebook, and a pen and took them to a small corner of the living room. She needed a plan, something that quantified their hopes into actionable steps. With every word that flowed onto the page, her resolve grew. Her friends began to arrive, filling her home with a mix of anticipation and uncertainty. Clara sensed their hesitance, so she gathered them in the living room, their faces looking at her with hopeful yet anxious eyes. "Today is the day we take our dreams seriously," she said, determination lining her voice. "We have to create a vision together. If we're going to present our cooperative to the factory, we need to show them we mean business." The group nodded, their murmurs shifting from doubt to cautious optimism. Clara spread out the materials she had prepared: the potential product ideas, distribution plans, and a budget outline. They brainstormed endlessly, ideas bouncing around like popcorn. Some wanted to focus on baked goods, others believed handmade crafts would capture attention, and a few proposed organic farming initiatives. As they built their vision, the laughter and chatter began to fade out into the background. Each member of their group contributed, revealing talents Clara hadn't known existed. Ruth, the baker, mentioned her grandmother's treasured recipes. Tom the mechanic shared dreams of urban gardens, and even shy Marissa unleashed ideas about a community market. Clara felt a wave of warmth wash over her as they spoke. They weren't just individuals anymore, but a collective pushing against the tide of despair. It was empowering. By the time they broke for lunch, every face glowed with possibility, igniting a palpable energy in the room. With renewed vigor, Clara proposed, "Let us be ready for the factory meeting. We'll make a presentation that highlights our passion and proves our worth." Supportive cheers followed, but Clara knew lingering fears still puckered at the edges of their joy. What if the factory owners laughed? What if they dismissed their efforts? That evening, as Clara tucked her children into bed, their cherubic faces calm and serene, she reflected on the day's triumphs. She kissed each forehead and, for a brief moment, closed her eyes. The future felt precarious but also exhilarating. Would their heartfelt dreams resonate with the factory owners? Would their stirring ambition be enough to win support? Clara's heart fluttered with anticipation. She had to believe in her newfound family, the town of Maplewood. Tomorrow would be monumental. What would the factory representatives say when they discovered the potential of a united community? It was a question that left Clara breathless with hope and fear alike. Clara woke up with the sun shining brightly through her window. A new sense of purpose filled the air, tinged with both excitement and nerves. Today was the day they would present their cooperative to the factory owners. Her thoughts danced between hope and anxiety as she prepared breakfast. The kids buzzed around her, their laughter mingling with the smell of pancakes sizzling on the stove. "Is it today, Mommy?" Ethan inquired, his little eyes sparkling with curiosity. "Yes, baby, today's the big day," Clara replied, trying to sound calm. Inside, her heart was racing. She couldn't help but wonder if they were truly ready for what lay ahead. As the hours ticked away, Clara and the group met again, this time at the community center. The air was charged with electric tension. Posters adorned with their bright ideas filled the walls, showcasing their visions. Each piece of paper represented a spark of hope, years of hard work, and dreams for a brighter future. Clara looked around the room, her friends rallying around one another like a family united by a common cause. "Remember, we're not just presenting a proposal, we're sharing our hearts," she reminded them, trying to embolden her friends as she paced back and forth. "Let us show them how much this means to us." "Yes!" Ruth shouted, clenching her fists. "We can do this. For our future." The energy in the room shifted, nervousness transforming into determination. When the clock struck 2, the atmosphere in the center thickened with anticipation. Clara could feel every heartbeat echoing in her ears as the factory representatives entered the hall. They wore crisp suits and briefcases that rattled like chains. She swallowed hard, the weight of their presence casting a long shadow. "Thank you for coming," Clara started, her voice wavering slightly. She noticed a few nods from her friends, grounding her. As she began the presentation, Clara poured her soul into it. The stories, the struggles, and the power of community unfolded before their eyes. She shared Ethan's drawings, displaying them like trophies. Each drawing wasn't just a child's art, it was a pure representation of hope for a future worth fighting for. One of the factory owners, a woman with sharp features named Ms. Langley, raised an eyebrow. Clara felt the moment freeze, a weighty silence hanging in the air. Clara's chest tightened as she continued, hoping to explain the essence behind each project. Their plans were ambitious, yes, but they were grounded in love, hard work, and a desire to revitalize their beloved town. As words flew from her lips, Clara began to notice her friends' faces light up. They nodded, and smiles crept across them. The passion they shared became a wave, crashing against the barriers of doubt they had carried for so long. When Clara finished, the crowd erupted into applause. Cheers echoed off the walls like an anthem. Yet, Clara still felt a flutter of uncertainty. Would the factory owners be moved? Could they see the urgency behind their plea for change? Ms. Langley cleared her throat, leaning forward. "You have certainly sparked something in me," she said, her voice cutting through the excited murmurs. Clara's heart thudded in her chest as she watched her closely, hopeful yet terrified of the words to follow. But before the question was put forward, a sudden noise interrupted their moment. A commotion outside the center. Curious, everyone turned toward the door. What was happening? Clara could feel the tension rise again, and the unease formed a knot in her stomach. The moment of truth seemed inches away, but it was obscured by uncertainty. What awaited them outside? Would it help or hinder their fight for change? Clara took a deep breath, fully aware that the next turn could change everything they had worked for. The door swung open, and a gust of wind swept through the room, carrying the sounds of shouting and movement. Clara's heart raced as she turned to see a large crowd gathered outside, faces contorted in fervent expressions. Her stomach dropped. Were they here to protest? "Clara! What is going on?" Ruth's voice broke through her thoughts, filled with a mix of concern and confusion. I don't know," Clara replied, rushing toward the entrance. The murmurs of uncertainty from her friends echoed behind her. They followed closely, dread and curiosity shaping their expressions. As Clara stepped outside, the brightness of the day felt stark against the tension coiling inside her. The scene that unfolded surprised her. In the midst of the crowd stood a group of people, holding handmade signs, their slogans vibrant against the dull backdrop of the community center. "Support local. Support us," one placard declared, while another read, "Our future, our power." Clara blinked, processing what was happening. It wasn't a protest against them, it was a rally of support. "Clara! Clara!" someone shouted from the front. It was Ben, a local carpenter, his face alight with enthusiasm. "We heard you were presenting today. We want to back you up. We're with you." Clara's eyes widened. The unexpected swell of pep and camaraderie fueled her spirit. You came to support us?" She stammered, incredulity mixed with warmth flooding her veins. "Of course." Ben's voice rang out. He gestured to the crowd. "This is just the start. We don't want a factory that weighs us down. We want change. When we band together, we're unstoppable." Cheers erupted again, and Clara felt her heart swell. This was community. This energy was everything she and her friends had envisioned. It washed away the lingering doubts that shadowed her earlier. She turned back toward her friends, whose faces mirrored her own disbelief and joy. "Look at them," Ruth whispered, eyes glistening with unspoken emotion. "They believe in us. Together." The factory owners stepped outside, confusion evident in their expressions as they absorbed the scene unfolding. Clara saw Ms. Langley exchanging glances with her colleagues. It was a silent acknowledgement of the sway grassroots movements could hold. "We can't back down now," Clara said, drawing strength from the crowd. "This is our moment. Let us show them what we're made of." The gathered group erupted in applause. Clara stepped forward, embracing the spirit of the moment. She raised her hands, silencing the chatter. "Thank you all for being here. We're fighting not just for our vision, but for our community's future. Let us stand together, and let those factory owners hear us. With every word, energy crackled in the air, invigorating all around her. The scene shifted from one of anxiety to a raucous celebration of hope, each chant intertwining their dreams, creating a symphony of unity. But just as they began to chant in unison, the atmosphere shifted. Clara noticed Ms. Langley whispering to a colleague, a serious look crossing her features. What did they plan to do next? As curiosity and anticipation coursed through the crowd, it was clear that a confrontation was brewing. Clara's heart raced again, uncertainty swirling around her. What if they dismiss our efforts, or worse? She thought. A brave front couldn't erase the fear gnawing at her. Just then, Clara caught sight of the factory owners striding forward, determined. We have something to discuss with you all, Ms. Langley called out, her voice firm yet measured. Clara took a deep breath. What were they about to say? Would it be the breakthrough they needed or another hurdle to leap over? The weight of the moment pressed down on her, an electrifying pause pregnant with potential. And all Clara could think was it really going to be enough? Listen up, everyone. Ms. Langley's voice cut through the crowd like a blade, a mixture of authority and urgency reflecting in her eyes. Clara felt the air tense, the momentum of their earlier chants fading into an uncomfortable silence. What we see here today is quite a spectacle, Ms. Langley continued, hands perched on her hips, adopting a commanding stance. But we're here not to dismiss your concerns. We're here to open a dialogue. Clara's heart leaped at the word dialogue. Could this really be a chance for understanding? She exchanged glances with Ruth and the others, who seemed equally stunned. I think we can find common ground, Ms. Langley said, her voice taking on a softer tone. We understand the importance of supporting our local community, that much is clear. But we need to talk about what this factory means for everyone. Jobs, stability. She paused, her expression serious. Growth. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Clara couldn't tell if they were intrigued or skeptical. It felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, wondering if she could fly or if she would fall. What about our future? What about the traditions and small businesses you're planning to bury? Ben shouted from deep within the crowd. His face flushed with passion, infusing Clara with an unexpected rush of courage. Ms. Langley shifted slightly, recognizing the challenge in his voice. I hear you, Ben. We need to take a holistic view. What if, instead of viewing this factory as a threat, we collaborate? We can ensure protections for local businesses while also investing in the community. Clara felt a spark ignite in her chest. Collaboration? The potential felt electrifying. It was the bridge they needed to cross. You're suggesting a partnership? Clara stepped forward, her voice shaky yet resolute. An actual partnership that benefits all of us? A few members of the crowd started to nod, reflecting Clara's rising hope. Yes. Ms. Langley replied, visibly warming to the idea. Let us involve everyone, local artisans, small business owners, and those invested in traditions. We want to build something together, a space that fosters creativity and entrepreneurship alongside industrial growth. We can create community programs, jobs that pay a living wage, and ultimately resolve the tensions we all face. Excitement mingled with skepticism. Was it too good to be true? Clara felt the pulse of the crowd quicken, bouncing from one uncertain emotion to another. And how do we know you'll follow through? Clara challenged, her voice firm but hopeful. Ms. Langley met her gaze with unwavering sincerity. Let us set up an advisory board. You'll have a voice in the planning, in the decision-making process. If we want this to work, everyone needs to be on board. The crowd buzzed with conversation, a blend of cautious optimism and lingering doubt. Clara caught Ruth's eye. They both knew this was a turning point. Can we trust them? Ruth whispered, biting her lip. I don't know, Clara replied honestly, uncertainty scraping at her confidence. But we have to try. As Clara stood there, energized yet anxious, she realized they had a choice. This was their chance to shape the world they wanted to see, but just as the discussion began to gain momentum, Clara noticed the shadow of another group forming at the edge of the crowd, faces hardened and ready for a fight. They were fuming and muttering among themselves, clearly against any notion of compromise. "Ruth," Clara whispered with unease, "it's not just the factory owners we have to worry about." The tension in the air grew thick as both sides confronted each other, ready to clash. Clara's heart raced painfully. Could their fragile hope withstand the impending storm? And deep down, she couldn't shake the chilling question: would the struggle for their community's future end in unity or division? Clara felt the ground shifting beneath her. The crowd was splitting, the air crackling with anticipation and apprehension. On one side, a group of supporters, energized by Ms. Langley's words, nodded and murmured encouragingly. On the other side, a faction of resistance had formed, their expressions fierce and resolved. "There's no way we're giving up our town for some shiny new factory," a woman shouted, her voice slicing through the crowd. Clara recognized her as Lisa, the owner of the local bakery, a beloved place for many. Her loyalty to tradition and local roots struck a chord in Clara's chest. "Don't let them fool you. They'll promise everything to pacify us, but when the factory opens, they'll toss us aside. We'll be nothing but background noise." A man in a worn jacket added, arms crossed defiantly. His hazel eyes burned with fight, igniting a spark of fear in Clara. "Listen, we're talking about our futures," Ms. Langley intervened, trying to regain control. "This isn't about diminishing local businesses. It's about creating a robust community where everyone can thrive." But the crowd was restless. Hushed voices turned into loud disagreement, the atmosphere growing thicker with every dissenting word. Clara felt caught in the middle, a pawn in a chaotic chess game. Why can't we see this as an opportunity? Clara finally found her voice among the escalating chaos. Growth doesn't have to mean losing what we love. There's a way to make progress while keeping our traditions. But each word felt like a drop in an ocean of doubt. As she spoke, she searched the faces around her, hoping to find a shared sense of purpose. A flicker of recognition in Ruth's eyes gave her hope. "Talk to us, Ms. Langley." Ben called out again, aiming to redirect the crowd's attention. "Tell us how we can protect ourselves while you build this factory. I understand your fears, but together, we can create guidelines. We'll draft a plan that keeps local businesses at the forefront." She insisted, her voice rising above the din. "But I need your support. We need to stop fighting and start listening." As if on cue, the fraction of supporters began to cheer. Clara felt her heart lift, even as voices around her rose in opposition. The varying reactions filled her with warmth and doubt all at once. Ruth leaned in closer to Clara, whispering, "What if we really could make a difference? What if it's not just talk?" "I want to believe that," Clara murmured back, fighting against the anxious thrum in her chest. "But it feels like we're standing at the brink of something huge, something that could either unite us or tear us apart." The surrounding shouts began to blend into a single, chaotic wave. Clara held rooted, determined to be the anchor in this storm. Her mind raced with thoughts of home and community beyond the clash of ideologies. In the midst of the chaos, Clara caught sight of the factory owners prowling the outskirts of the crowd, exchanging glances that conveyed their own mix of anxiety and anticipation. What game were they playing? She felt a growing suspicion that their ambitions were far more calculated than they led them to believe. Suddenly, the tension snapped when Lisa's voice soared above the rest. "How do we know you'll protect our interests, Ms. Langley? We don't want to find out the hard way." The crowd fell silent, heavy breaths waiting for her answer. Clara's heart hammered in her chest, a thought swirling at the back of her mind. What price would they pay for their hopes? Would the outcomes truly be shared? As Ms. Langley opened her mouth to respond, a loud crash echoed from behind them, drawing all attention away. Clara turned, and her breath hitched. What had just happened? A new threat loomed, the potential divide just thickened. Now, the question weighed heavy on her: would they fight together, or would this new challenge drive them apart? The crowd spun toward the sound, a collective breath held in suspense. Clara's heart raced as she searched the sea of faces, trying to decipher the source of the chaos. A surge of bodies began to part as a figure stumbled forward, cradling an overturned sign that once read, "Welcome to our future." It was Matt, the town's mechanic, his face twisted in concern. "They've damaged the community board," he shouted, breathless. "Saw them out back. It looks like they want to stir up trouble." Gasps swept through the crowd as the realization settled like a brick. This was more than just a disagreement over a factory. Forces were at play that aimed to pit neighbors against neighbors. The whispers of doubt were now mixed with fear that the struggle for progress could overshadow everything that held them together. Clara's mind raced. "Who did this?" she asked, stepping closer to Matt, her voice trembling with urgency. "What happened? Are they trying to intimidate us?" He shook his head, the sweat beading on his brow. "Some outsiders, I think. They said something about not letting the factory take over. I tried to reason with them, but they were too far gone." Ms. Langley stepped forward, her brow furrowed but her voice steady. "This is exactly the kind of fear we need to confront." Her tone was stronger now, almost fierce. "If we let these disruptions control our narrative, we'll lose sight of what we're fighting for." As she spoke, Clara felt the weight of her words. This was no longer just about a factory or inflated promises. It was about the very heart of their community. Talk of unity, of standing together against outside pressure, began to resonate through the crowd, but the shadows of doubt lingered. She glanced at Lisa, who still looked uncertain, arms crossed protectively over her chest. Clara needed her to see the potential for alliance, the chance to rise above fear and define their future on their terms. "Let us not let them divide us," Clara shouted, her voice slicing through the murmurs. She took a deep breath, her heart pounding. "We're stronger together. We can create a future that respects our history, while also embracing what could be. But we have to stand united. For our families and for our town." A flicker of acknowledgement passed across Lisa's face, and Clara seized that moment. "We all want what's best. Sometimes, that means letting go of the familiar to fight for a future we can shape ourselves." Slowly, cheers began to ripple through the crowd, the bitterness of doubt mingling with the warmth of solidarity. Clara could feel the shift, a transformation of vulnerability into strength. But even as hope began to bloom, a sinking realization settled in her stomach. What if their unity came at a cost they weren't willing to pay? Amidst the rising spirits, Clara caught sight of the factory owners, their expressions unreadable. A web of secrets surrounded them, and despite the fervor of the crowd, Clara felt a chilling reminder of how powerful they truly were. The crash had created a crack in their facade, one that threatened to shatter the small ripple of progress they'd just begun to cultivate. As the crowd gathered to reclaim the broken sign, Clara noticed a dark figure lurking at the edge of the gathering, eyes gleaming with a predatory weight. Who was this shadow? Could it be just a spectator, or someone who would take advantage of their fragility? A new wave of anxiety washed over her. Time was slipping away, and the urgency to decipher the truth never felt greater. What was happening behind their backs, and would Clara have the courage to confront it? With the weight of uncertainty and the flicker of hope in balance, the question loomed: could they protect their community from threats both seen and unseen, or would this be the beginning of their unraveling? As Clara's gaze remained fixed on the dark figure lingering just beyond the crowd's periphery, she felt her heart thud loudly in her chest. Panic fluttered like a trapped bird within her, each beat urging her to act, to find out who this person was and what they wanted. The cheers of solidarity built around her faded into a dull roar, overshadowed by the gnawing uncertainty that pulsed through the air. "Stay together," Ms. Langley called out again, her voice rising above the mounting chatter in the crowd. Clara looked at her, grateful for her leadership but still haunted by the shadowy stranger. She felt the weight of responsibility pulling at her shoulders. They were standing at a crossroads, one that could lead them all towards healing or fracture them apart with fear. "Matt!" Clara yelled, breaking away from the thrumming crowd. He was nearby, catching his breath as he tried to assess the damage done to the community board. "Can you find out who that is?" She pointed subtly toward the figure who still hovered like a dark cloud, watching them with inscrutable intent. "On it," Matt replied, striding into the mass of bodies, his expression steely with determination. Clara felt a rush of hope. If anyone could confront that figure, it was someone with Matt's tenacity. As the crowd continued to chant and wave their signs of support, Clara turned back to the throng. She couldn't ignore the palpable energy wrapping around them, almost electric, but doubt clawed at the edges of her mind. Lisa's uncertain expression echoed in her thoughts. Would their efforts to unite really succeed, or would it all come crashing down? Just as those worries threatened to engulf her, Clara felt a tugging at her sleeve. It was Lisa, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and defiance. What if they come back? What if the outsiders don't stop at damaging our sign? She asked, drawing Clara's focus back to the present. Clara took a breath, steadying herself. "Then we show them we won't be intimidated," she said, her words growing stronger, more resolute. "We have to protect what we love. This town isn't just buildings and streets, it's us. It's our memories, our friendships." The conviction in her own voice surprised her, a fire igniting where doubt once flickered weakly. Lisa's expression shifted slightly, her arms uncrossing just a bit as if Clara's words were helping her shed the protective barrier she'd built. "You really think we can come together? Even now?" "I do," Clara replied firmly. "But we need to keep our eyes wide open. We can't let fear drive us apart." Before they could continue their conversation, Matt rejoined them, his brow knitted tight. That was one of the local protesters. They weren't happy, I can tell you that. But they seemed kind of lost. "It's not just about the factory, it's about something deeper. That shows us we aren't alone in this," Clara said, feeling an unshakable bond of shared struggle rising between them. "We need to reach out. To show we're all just trying to find our way forward." Just then, a loud shout rang out from the edge of the crowd. Clara turned her head sharply. The dark figure had stepped forward, now brandishing a megaphone. "Listen up. You're being led down a path of lies." The voice boomed, filled with frustration and urgency. "This factory promises jobs but steals your soul." Gasps echoed as many in the crowd turned, shocked. Clara's heart sank. The battle wasn't just against divided opinions, it was against fear-mongering and distrust, bubbling just beneath the surface. As the figure continued, Clara's resolve morphed into determination. She could feel her community at a tipping point, and she refused to let them fall. What would she say to cut through the deceit? With Matt and Lisa at her side, she could feel the urge to take a stand rising within her. She was ready to fight not just for her town, but for a future free of shadows that threatened to consume them. Clara stepped forward, heart racing with adrenaline. She took a deep breath, prepared to reclaim their narrative. Would she find the right words to unite her town, or would the dark figure's message do them irreparable harm? Clara stepped forward, determination surging within her. Today was not just another day, it was a defining moment, a chance to reclaim not only Maplewood's future but to reshape how they saw each other amid the turmoil. The crowd thrummed with anticipation as she raised her voice, cutting through the clamor. "Listen!" she shouted, her heart pounding in rhythm with the fight brewing inside her. "This isn't about big factories or angry outsiders, it's about our community. About us. We can either let fear divide us or we can come together." The dark figure paused, momentarily taken aback by the passion in her words. Clara shoved past the doubt creeping into her mind. "Yes, we're scared. Yes, we've all felt powerless before. But look around you. This isn't just a gathering of strangers. We're neighbors. We're friends. We've shared laughter, tears, and memories right here in Maplewood. A resounding cheer swept through the crowd. Energy built like a tidal wave, surging through hearts long weighed down by worry. Clara took a step closer to the figure with the megaphone, her voice steady and unyielding. We won't be led astray. You might think you understand our struggles, but you don't know the fire that lights up our lives. Together, we can forge a new path, one that lifts every single one of us. As she spoke, she saw familiar faces all around her, Ruth, with her infectious smile, and Ben, who wore his heart on his sleeve. There was Matt, nodding in solidarity, and even Lisa, her expression softening as the flicker of hope began to burn brighter in her eyes. The dark figure tightened his grip on the megaphone, but Clara pressed on. This factory could be a partner. Imagine a collaboration where jobs are created with respect for our craft, where every voice in Maplewood is heard. We can shape this together if we rise up. More voices joined Clara's, chanting words of unity and strength. Together. Together. Echoed through the streets, rising like a symphony. Clara's heart nearly burst with pride and joy. She was no longer just a single mother on a quest for survival, she was part of something monumental, filled with a fire that wanted change. Ms. Langley stepped up beside her, her stance firm. You know what? You're absolutely right. A true partnership can empower us to create that bridge. We're here to listen. Let us work together. The crowd responded with a roar. The rising support surrounded Clara like a warm embrace. She allowed herself to glance at the dark figure, whose certainty was fading under the light of a united front. Together, we can build this new future, Clara continued, her voice ringing clear. Let us not protect our fears, let us protect and nurture each other. Let us heal the wounds of distrust and rise with our dreams, not as individual hopes but as collective aspirations. The dark figure faltered, his voice wavering slightly as he noticed the energy around him transform from division to unity. Clara could see uncertainty in the eyes of those who had once been so resolutely opposed. Suddenly, Matt stepped forward, joining Clara in the spotlight. We've dealt with the struggles, the heartaches, and the uncertainty of tomorrow. But the real battle is to lift one another, not tear each other down. Clara felt the unshakable bond forming between neighbors who had once seen each other as competition. Together they were creating a dream that spoke to every heart, every ear, and every soul in Maplewood. Then, in a moment that felt like a turning point, Lisa stepped forward. We can't let fear dictate our future. Let us create a pact right here, right now. Let us promise to work together, to curate this town into a place of growth, where roots run deep, and dreams are shared. Cheers erupted again, louder, more fervent. Clara felt tears prick at her eyes, a cascade of emotion swelling within her. The energy bounced around them, unstoppable like a freight train powered by resilience. The crowd, once divided, was now a collective spirit shouting, singing, united, for our future. For Maplewood. As Clara looked around, she saw her children, Lucy and Ethan, embracing their neighbors with joy, their faces glowing in the warmth of the moment. The tension that had once marred their interactions was dissolving into genuine connection. The standing figure finally lowered the megaphone, realizing a victory was slipping away, but the ripple of transformation wouldn't just drift away. It would reverberate, resound, and it would inspire not just Maplewood, but towns across the nation, proving that hope and unity could ignite something powerful. They could do this. Together, they was strong enough to face any challenge and, more importantly, strong enough to embrace change while honoring their roots. A collective sigh of relief washed over Clara as the crowd turned toward Ms. Langley, who raised her hands to speak. Let us make this real, she said, her voice steady. Let us partner together, invest in our community, create a board where you all will have a say, be part of the discussion. You won't have to fight alone. We can write a brighter future. And with that, Maplewood moved from a stage of uncertainty into a crescendo of believably hopeful action. Their story was only just beginning, and Clara's heart swelled with joy. As they cheered, the light of a new day dawned across Maplewood, casting away the shadows and illuminating a path bursting with possibility. This was not just the end but the beginning of a new chapter. Stay inspired, stay fighting. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment below your feelings about this incredible transformation. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know that hope and community can change everything.